Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday to you. It's Dave Neal here with a Rush Hour podcast on this January 31st, 2025. Here are all the stories we're going to be getting into today for your drive home. I've got a funny clip to play from an influencer about why you shouldn't date male influencers. This having to do with the Rachel Kirkconnell, Matt James breakup. Also, a 100,000 subscriber review. I want to discuss with you guys what this means to me, my channel, my family, and kind of break that fourth wall where I just take a little Friday afternoon time to share the state of the union when it comes to what we have going on. Also, the negative impact of going viral. You get your content shared with a lot of people. Not all of them agree with you, and that's fine. And it's worth the trade-off, but we'll discuss that. Also, an update to the Clayton Echard's court case. There's an appellant's reply brief. We'll just give a quick skim over Clayton's accuser saying, trying to rewrite history, I guess. I don't really know. And then updates on the air traffic control issue that led to the tragic incident this week with the plane crash. So I've got all those stories and some more coming up next on The Rush. Well, here's a PSA for all the ladies out there. Just say no to male influencers. Boy, that should be a t-shirt. Let's have a listen.
Maybe some of you are not going to agree with me on this, but the facts are that you can't trust a man that grows a beard out like this. As soon as it gets to the point where it's like puffy and it's like stringy at the ends, absolutely not. It's like, this is attention seeking. Having a beard like this is attention seeking behavior.
Now, on Matt James' side, he grew the beard out after the whole world was mad at him for sticking with his lover after the issue that they had with Rachel Kirkconnell. There was a lot of reasons why he might have put that beard on. But hey, if he was, he's no Dan Blazarian.
Look at his outfit. This man is part of the sassy man apocalypse. She should have, I'm sorry, we need to stop acting like women are little infant babies. This man dumped you on TV. He got the host of the TV show canned because he was trying to act like you were racist after you went on a show to date an African American man.
By the way, that timeline is not correct whatsoever. So Chris Harrison was replaced by Emmanuel Acho as the host of the show before Matt James and Rachel Kirkconnell had their awkward after the final rose. So it's a very tight needle to thread, very dicey. So I reject that argument right there. But it was tough because Matt James did essentially dump her following the big not conspiracy, but the big story that came out because Rachel Kirkconnell in college went to a antebellum themed party. Me from New England had no idea what that was. And Rachel from Georgia said, hey, it was just a party. I had no idea what I was a part of. She educated herself, blah, 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 right? So they then dated for 4 years and are no longer. What's interesting to me, though, when it comes to Rachel Kirkconnell and Matt James is all of the evidence people are drudging through right now to show Matt James was kind of a shitty boyfriend. And a lot of that is, they make content and you make your girlfriend the butt of your jokes. And there's a lot of you don't know. And again, it kind of relates to the Justin Baldoni stuff, although there's no accusations here, but it relates in the sense that you don't know what's them joking around versus serious, because Rachel Kirkconnell, in a comedic sense, plays a very, very good straight man. So when you break down the comedy of like a TikTok video, there's like two peas in a pod, which would be a Dumb and Dumber style, which is two guys that are idiots. And then there's straight man versus the character, which would be like David Spade versus Chris Farley in any of their funny movies. David Spade is the straight man. He keeps a straight face. So there's times when like Matt James will push Rachel Kirkconnell in the pool and she looks miserable and everyone's like, oh my gosh, what did you do to her? And I'm like, first of all, I don't even know if that was a skit or not, So we review these TikTok videos as if it was documentary footage. And there's always more to the story. With that said, you know me from the beginning. I am a Rachel Kirkconnell fan. She's on my short list of favorite people on the show. Why? Because she's the funniest, most outgoing? No. I think she's a beautiful person, and her soul, I believe, has been super kind, and I think she comes from a very kind family and a very tight-knit family, and I really respect and appreciate that. But B, the way she responded to that controversy that she was dealt, and the way she was, I think, mature beyond her years, and the way she handled that. She actually handled handled it better than the entire PR mechanism for ABC Disney. She really did. I don't need to relitigate the story, but I stand by that. Of course they tried to silence her, and she really wanted to speak out and say, no, those parties are wrong. Like that's a stain in our society, and I didn't know, and I'm learning. And for me, the best way in our society to overcome some of the dark moments of our country is to not shame people into oblivion. It's to educate. It's to talk. And in the last half decade, people have been afraid to talk. And then someone might say, "Oh, here's a white man talking about cancel culture." Not whatsoever, because I'm not afraid to talk. But I understand the ramifications that can come from having difficult conversations. Saying, "I wasn't taught that. I didn't know." You get people in the South going, "I was taught that slavery it was a states' rights issue, and the Civil War wasn't about slavery." You hear these crazy things, and you can't get mad at the person who received an education that might have been different and less informed than yours. That's just the world we live in. And the world we live in is people coming to their own conclusions and then getting mad at somebody who's right behind them. It's almost like you win a race and then you're like, haha, third place guy sucks. And it's like, well, that guy didn't get to the finish line as quickly as you did, but that guy's going to still finish the race. We're all going to get there, hopefully, as long as we're all trying to be the best versions of ourselves. And by get there, I mean, try to learn to be more educated and more empathetic, more graceful. Like those are all qualities we can learn and we can sort of adopt into our life. And I saw Rachel Kirkconnell do just that. So it's a lot for me to say I'm on team Rachel. Okay. I'm on team transparency with these UFOs. UFO whistleblower claims Trump is being lied to about these drones in New Jersey. Oh, I wasn't prepared. I'm not always prepared for these UFO stories, so I didn't have my music ready. Trump being lied to about these drones. And again, who knows? Someone is not presenting the whole story to our new president. I just listen to, every once in a while, a clip will show up on my YouTube channel and I can't not watch. So I'm trying to go to bed at 2 a.m. last night. I'm working overtime this week to get you guys the content you deserve. And then I get a clip that was like a Joe Rogan interview where he interviewed someone who saw a blue alien. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to watch the whole video. I can't. If you claim to have seen a blue alien, I can't not watch. I don't know if any of it's true or not, the drone issue, whatnot. But I do know when the drone issue reached its fever pitch last month, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a prepper. I'm not scared of things, but I went to Costco and I bought a lot of chili. And let me tell you something. If I'm ever stuck in a bunker with my wife, she will kill me before she listens or deals with the reflexes that might come from eating nothing but chili. So anyhow, she's like, "Take me, aliens. I can't stand my husband's farts." All right. So we covered ad nauseum, some might say, Blake Lively, right? We covered earlier that the lawyers don't want Brian Friedman to take her deposition. Brian Friedman's side say, how can she? It's almost like if you went to, it's almost like if you're on a baseball team and the other team wants to bring in Mariano Rivera or some, Nolan Ryan, some baseball player to pitch. And you go, "No, I don't want that Hall of Fame pitcher. I want to face your other guy. Give me the intern." So Blake Lively's lawyers don't want Brian Friedman to depose her. And listen, I've been in a deposition before. It was for something very stupid. I was run over in a car accident and I won the case. I had video evidence, but they still deposed me. They wanted to check my credibility. They wanted to ask me so many random questions like, "How heavy is your dog?" It's almost like a fishing expedition, really, where they're looking for any cracks in the hardware, right? And when it comes to Blake Lively, Brian Friedman's been on her ass. Now, I don't know if that's a reason for her to not get him as a bulldog to depose her, but in a deposition, it's a sworn video, in cases like this, you could either pay for the videographer, which is more expensive, or you could just do the stenographer. Is that right? Who the person who types it all out, the court reporter. And either way, you're looking like, if you remember the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp depositions, like they had Amber Heard on video lying about like leaking something to TMZ. And then there was this moment where she had this moment where she caught herself in a lie and put her hand over. It was this visceral reaction. That's what you're looking for in a deposition. Can I catch someone with a credibility issue? That would have never shown up with just a court reporter. And that might not show up if you don't have the right attorney asking the right questions. I'm not a judge. My guess is the judge will say, we can't set a precedent for who gets to depose who. If he's got a lawyer, they can ask you the questions. That's my guess. We'll have to see how it all goes down. All right. let's get to the flight stuff. I want to, and because I want to end on the talking about my 100,000 subscribers, and just on a personal level of gratitude to tell you about what it means to me and all of that. But let's first go to the issues with the air traffic control from the flight this week. I'm also going to share what a retired Black Hawk helicopter operator had to say. So stick around. We'll be back with that right after this break. And by the way, I'm recording this podcast a couple hours early before the afternoon rush because I actually have a show in Chattanooga, Tennessee tonight. I think it's a private show. I think it's sold out. So if you see me at some random Chattanooga burger joint, come say hi afterwards. But okay, so and by the way, if you do want any information about upcoming stand-up shows, the best way right now, I'm redoing my website, which will have my mailing list and all of the calendar dates. But the best way right now is just to subscribe to my Instagram at dnealz, DNEALZ. It's where I post all my stupid videos of my beautiful baby and comedy and whatever takes I have that I don't get over here. So I'm saying that because I'm a few hours early. So if there is any breaking news, whether it be with Blake Lively or anything that's worth covering, I'll cover it from the road. It's a several-hour drive. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know if you're new here. We have so many new people. I was in California and Los Angeles the last 10 years, and before that, New York City, originally from Rhode Island. But here I am in Tennessee, and boy, is it beautiful? It's like you have to, when you drive, you have to watch out for deer. Deer will jump in front of your car. It's the biggest enemy in Tennessee is deer and the legislators that are trying to control your bodies. Either way, watch out for deer and old white men. They're here. They're coming for you. DC air traffic plane avoided helicopter over DC one day before catastrophe. So we're going to see a lot of information coming out about the issues with the FAA. I've been saying this for well over a year that a disaster is coming because of all of the near misses. There has been like a Southwest flight that almost missed. You have to understand these airports were not built for the level of traffic they're receiving. So there are flights coming and going all day, every day. It's like a busy intersection, and there's no room for a fender bender because you get a catastrophe, which sadly we saw happen to us. But now we're finding out there are preventable issues that went down. Washington, D.C. plane crash. A controller went home early before the collision. Unusual deviation, according to a report. So it could be a combination. I don't have the answers, but it could be a combination of understaffing or some black swan event where maybe someone got sick or something. I don't know why they went home or rage quit. I have no idea. But it could be a combination of that along with not enough pilots on the Black Hawk helicopters. The Federal Aviation Administration says staffing levels were below the normal amount when the deadly plane crash occurred over Washington, D.C. It was a decision made by a supervisor. The New York Times, citing an anonymous source, says an air traffic control supervisor combined the responsibilities of handling both helicopters and plane flight paths before the usual time, though it's currently not clear why. Before 9:30 p.m., Reagan Washington National Airport had two controllers, one to handle the choppers and the other to handle the airplanes. And after 9:30, they transitioned to only one person because traffic lessens significantly. However, New York Times says the supervisor combined the roles before 9:30, a deviation from the usual routine. And they've reached out to confirm. The FAA has already said staffers were not normal for the time of day and volume of traffic. All right. And again, that doesn't solve any of the problems. But it just goes to show that it's probably more complicated than like, we didn't hire the right person. It's what's going on with federal funding. Could this have anything to do with, the freeze on spending? I don't think that's the case from what I've seen so far, but, I think it's normal to ask certain questions, but by all means, let's not assume or presume it's one thing versus the other. Ex-Black Hawk helicopter says, here are the three things that went wrong in the plane collision. Let's have a listen.
Three different things happened. First of all, they only had a crew of three. And if you're flying a visual flight plan in a crowded airspace like this, they really should have had two crew chiefs in the back of the helicopter to clear each side, as the pilots only have visibility from straight ahead 12 to 3 o'clock, or 12 from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So you only have visibility of the front 180 degrees. Your crew chiefs clear the back. If you only have one crew chief, how much can you clear? The second one is, whether they were on night vision goggles at that time or not, it is a very cluttered airspace with a lot of lighting and the lights reflecting on the river. And so with that, it's easy to kind of get a little disoriented as far as the height. They were supposed to be at 200 feet, which is the helicopter routing in that area, and it wouldn't have been a conflict. But they were not at 200 feet. Obviously, reportedly, the incident happened at around 350 to 400 feet as the airliner was descending. So that they were at the wrong height. So that's a pilot error. The first would be a policy error or choice. And then the third is air traffic control said, do you have the CRJ in sight? Well, there were two aircraft in their field of view, and actually only one was really obvious to them. And that was if you watch the video, the aircraft taking off in the foreground is probably the one they were facing, the pilots were facing, and said, yeah, I got it. The air traffic control should have said, do you have the aircraft at 5 o'clock? So they were looking at the rear.
All right, so there you see it. So it could be a mistake from the air traffic control, not giving specific directions to which flight you should be looking at. And again, I'm not saying this to blame them. It's just, you got to make sure that these situations, you really try to mitigate this disaster. These things should not, because it can always be worse. Right now it was a regional jet, but it could have been a plane with 400 people on it. And again, it doesn't make this any less, for the victims that were there, but these disasters are so preventable in today's world. They absolutely are. All right. Well, updates to the Court of Appeals from the Bachelor Clayton Echard case. If you're new to our channel, we have been covering this wild story that's been going on for far too long between a lady who's accused the Bachelor of being pregnant, of being the father of her unborn twins. I'm not going to read the 45 pages because it's more or less the same thing, where they're trying to catch Clayton on some sort of procedural error. But in family court, the judge gets a lot of jurisdiction to say, they got a lot of leeway, right? So if there's enough evidence, and one person claims, oh, you got this piece of evidence wrong, throw the whole thing out. It's like, no. Laura Owens admitted to being, even her lawyer said she's not a credible witness because she lied. She lied about where she went to Planned Parenthood. She lied by sending me medical evidence that was faked. She changed her HCG levels from 102 to 144,000. She, was exposed for putting a Fiverr logo on an ultrasound and using YouTube videos that were 7 years old and claiming, stealing the unborn babies from those ultrasounds. Real sinister stuff that will be exposed in its right time. So it's just exhausting to me to cover. But I wanted to let you guys know I'm not quitting on it. It's just we'll wait and see what the appeals court has to say. They've said they're going to take this to the Supreme Court, and it's one of those take the loss. It's like when I do stand-up comedy, right? And if I have a bad set, the hackiest thing to do is be like, that audience sucked. It's like, take the loss. You weren't the best version of yourself that day. Laura Owens, take the loss, okay? No one cares about you. Everyone just cared about having this guy, Clayton Echard, not get railroaded by a fake story. And that's all it was. It was the clearest case of you trying to do, for whatever motivation, trap this guy. If you're new to this, folks, I'll continue to talk about it, but she essentially claimed she was pregnant, wrote him an email saying, now that I'm pregnant, you can bang me and it'll be okay. I'm paraphrasing, but she had her mom email him. She sent all this evidence that we found out later was fake. And then she, it looks like, wore a fake baby bump to a court hearing, adjust it, was standing up. It was one thing after another. She created a fake journalist, which she now doesn't deny because I have evidence from two sources that it happened. The two-factor authentication on the YouTube video from the journalist that she faked leads back to her cell phone number. Oh my gosh, what a time to be alive. If you guys haven't followed this, I'm writing a one-man act that'll be shot like a stand-up comedy show, but also like a TED Talk. And it's going to expose all of this into a clear, tight 75-minute show because it's beyond crazy. And because Bachelor's not as big as other news stories, it's kind of fallen through the cracks. But trust me, folks, you'll get the full story. You're at the right place, and we're not messing around. We've been threatened with a $100 million defamation lawsuit. But you know what? You know what's a good response to defamation? The truth. Just share the truth. You know what I mean? It will set you free. All right, let's take a quick break, and I'm going to come back with my thoughts on 100,000 subscribers. It's been a wild week. We'll be back right after this. So I'm recording this podcast, an hour or two early because I'm trying to take the afternoon off because I got my parents in town and they haven't visited the baby in a long time. So they're getting to see the 8-month-old. And if anyone has any kids, the difference between like a 3-month-old and an 8-month-old is a different human. He was cute when he was 3 months, but as an 8-month-old, he plays, he'll bark at us. He like has all of his nonverbal communication. He's crawling around. It's been absolutely life-changing. But it's actually a good segue into wrapping up with gratitude here. So we reached 100,000 subscribers on YouTube this week, and I think we're actually at 103,000 now, and who knows, the sky's the limit. But my channel took off 4 years ago during the pandemic. Right before the pandemic hit, I was driving I was doing hospitality, driving around tourists on the coast in Santa Monica. I was working for minimum wage and then working on tips. It was a tough job. It was tough because I could not find a week where I was making over $500. And living in a high cost of living city like Los Angeles, it was so challenging to work those side jobs, do stand-up, which you're, for the most part, doing for free. You're essentially an intern until you're a CEO when it comes to stand-up, right? You're working on your craft until people will pay to see it. And I'm doing that. I'm very frustrated because I have a degree in business, but I do understand and have believed in the power of YouTube and the power of podcasting and the power of the global reach that can come from it all. And it was really tough, but I held on to this quote, "Don't rent out your time." And it's that belief that you need to be in control of your business and what you do and the powers that you have. And anyone that's a middleman is just kind of taking away from that. And, and again, I don't mean to bash other people with normal jobs, but when you work for somebody else, you're exchanging you're giving away your time in exchange for someone else's dream. I'll pay you $80,000 a year to do this. And it's like, well, I want to do that, but that's not what I'm paying you to do. And in some cases, you can do both. You can moonlight doing one thing and you can get your bills paid doing another. In my case, I was so on the edge of, and not to say I'm a Nostradamus here, Brostradamus, but I was so on the edge of knowing I was doing the right thing that I knew I could feel the Rubik's Cube moving in the direction of completing the Rubik's Cube, even though none of the sides of the Rubik's Cube looked like it made sense. Why do I say all that? Well, a case took off 4 years ago, and it happened on my YouTube after I had done all of the work to learn Photoshop, which is so important when it comes to making effective thumbnails. And I had spent years doing a former podcast called The Sap, which was originally called You Up, with my co-host Gabby, and then it became my co-host Tasha, my wife. And I had blood, sweat, and tears put into giving away things for free, trying to capture how I can speak out loud, connect through a microphone, and have it relate to an audience. And that's something I continue to learn and grow from. I'm no expert there. It's an acquired taste. Some people don't like my voice, or I have weird quirks, and you try to fix them, and you just always try to be better every day. But 4 years ago, I saw some videos start to take off, and it was revolved around Bachelor Nation, and we went from 1,000 subscribers to 10,000 within months, real quick, and from 10,000 to 40, and then we hit 50,000. And as fast as I made it to that 50,000, I really reached the bubble of my niche. I kind of topped off around 80,000. Now, there's other people that cover Bachelor Nation that have way bigger followings, but I tend to be real authentic with my points of view, which, as a guy who doesn't mind sharing politics and things like that, would push a lot of people away. And what I learned is you're better off walking some people and keeping the ones that get you than trying to please everybody. Now, that doesn't mean I'm an asshole or you're being an asshole. It just means I'm standing true to my convictions, and I'm not going to pander or grift to other people to acquire them and not be true to myself. I think that leads to like a real internal sickness, and I just don't want anything to do with it. So with that said, I kind of hit this hump. I kind of just hit this glass ceiling, and it's been very slow. Most months I get 50 to 80 new subscribers, but the podcast has still been growing, the audio only podcast. So what happened was I decided in January to finally this year, this is literally 31 days ago, I decided to merge my audio only podcast, which has been successful as I do it twice a day, with my YouTube channel, which are more like direct sort of like thesis pieces, 15, 20 minute long videos, mealtime length videos. And I knew it would be a hell of a lot of work. And let me tell you something, it is. I work basically throughout the day, and then at night I go back to work around 10 p.m. and this whole week I've been finishing between 2 to 3 a.m., sometimes later, and then I get up, with the baby. So I don't say that to complain. I just say it's been a lot of work getting this new business going. It's almost like I was a brunch spot who's now doing dinner. So it's been a lot of work, but the payoff happened 2 weeks ago. Saturday, 2 weeks ago, Friday, I decided I got to read these Blake Lively court documents. They're insane. I know my audience, for the most part, has cared about this Bachelor Clayton for Justice, Justice for Clayton case, and Bachelor Nation news. And I'm going to dive into an adjacent niche. It's still entertainment news, but it's adjacent. And I'm telling you right now, we didn't get that many views on that Friday night, but I did a 4-5 hour long live stream. Saturday night, I finished it. I drank multiple Celsius energy drinks, and the views also weren't that great, but I knew I was doing the right thing. I knew I had the engagement, the clicks were coming in. So I was kind of under the understanding where I'm out there like a surfer, to use a metaphor, and there's no waves in sight, but I'm looking at those clouds and I'm going, there is a fucking storm brewing. And I could feel that. And I know that because I've seen it in the past. And this time I was equipped with the right skill set, the right surfboard, and everything was right for that Rubik's Cube to be 3 clicks away from being done. So Sunday comes along, again, 2 weeks ago, and I post a video. And, I let it go. A couple hours later, hey, let's see how it did. Whoa. A whole new audience. And where do those people come from? Well, YouTube decided, like I've got the ticket at a deli counter, Dave Neal, you're up. And they brought me up the line, and they brought the YouTube channel up, and new subscribers start ticking in. And what's the point of all of it? Well, I said, all right, today was big, tomorrow's going to be bigger. And for 5 days in a row, we grew exponentially. And even this week, we still continue to grow to the point where I thought maybe by my 40th birthday in May, we'll hit 100,000 subscribers. No, that can't happen. Well, it happened 2 days ago. And it's so wild how quickly your dreams can come true when you kind of give up on the superficiality of it. And by that, I mean, I no longer cared about the 100,000 subscribers. I truly didn't. It was like, sure, I want the plaque, but at the end of the day, I'm happy with who I have. We have a full-blown business. It's allowed us the financial freedom to buy a home, a car, and have a baby. Not in that order. Well, we bought a car, then the home, and then the baby. We made the baby after buying the car. You don't need the whole blueprint here. But the point is it opened up doors for more, for better versions of myself, more confident versions of myself, not the working for minimum wage version, but the business owner who can bring the stories to you that matter to me. And that's all I can do. And I understand this is a ramble, but what I'm trying to leave you guys with is the idea that if you have something you believe in, if there's something inside of you, a poet, a writer, an architect, a storyteller, whatever it may be, a small, a bookstore, a record, a vinyl company, if there's something you want to be in life, and it might be something where you don't even know what it is, but there's a feeling you have, find a way to share it with others. We live in the world with TikTok and Instagram. You're always one video away from some virality that can make your dreams come true. The crux of the matter is you gotta leap before the net appears. That's what has to happen. No one's going to give you $1 million to write the book. You got to write it first. And it's very hard for the dopamine, the reward sensors in our brain, to write the book, not knowing if anything's going to come from it. I'm here to tell you right now, and I'm going to leave you with this. Something will come from that leap, whatever it is you take. Think about it, pray on it, meditate on it, whatever the heck you need to do. And my goal for others is that so we can continue and begin to live our authentic selves. I have a way I end my Friday afternoon episodes. It pisses some people off. I do this thing where I say, everyone leave your office, put your middle fingers up and tell your boss to go F themselves. But what I'm trying to say when I say that is not, oh, your boss is a bad person. It is, live the life you've imagined, as Henry David Thoreau says, right? Simplify your life, the laws of the universe become simpler, right? So it's about going, he says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Find out what that is. Maybe you have it and God bless you, this isn't for you. But find out what that is, the riches will follow. And those riches are going to be a new community that you can geek out with that appreciates it as well. I mean, honestly, there's people that have a Bigfoot podcast that are successful and I love watching them, right? So it's like, find out what that expertise is. And if it's not expertise, the interest, because when you have interest, that's energy, and that energy is consumable by others. And in this case, maybe it's justice for different groups or exposing the absurdities of entertainment news. But in the end, the through line is communication. And as a comedian, as a YouTuber or podcaster, it's communicating to you. And it's tough sometimes because I got to look through the lens and meet you where you are in your living room. You're breastfeeding, you're cooking dinner, you're driving home from work or to work or whatever the case. We even had someone who works as a hostess at Applebee's listening on our earpods. Hey, how are you? Get the blooming onions. The point is, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And hello to our new large audience. Let's get this party started. Have a good weekend. I've got a great YouTube podcast for you tomorrow. I interviewed a guy who's an attachment expert talking about attachment when it comes to family life. And I'm not kidding when I say the 30 minutes you're about to listen to tomorrow could change your life. Have a good one. Don't forget, tell your boss to go fuck himself. We'll see you later. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.